3 years ago, the world as I knew it shattered. The accident stole my legs, my freedom, and nearly extinguished the fire in my soul. Yet, from that wreckage, an unexpected bond bloomed. First, a heartfelt thank you to my incredible listeners. Your unwavering support allows me to share stories that delve into life's messy, unfiltered truths. This one's a tangled web, so stay with me. The doctors called me fortunate. Fortunate the massive truck hadn't crushed me entirely. Fortunate my spine remained unbroken. Fortunate my sweet boy, Finn, wasn't in the car that fateful night. Lucky, they said. A cruel jest for a woman whose legs scream in protest after just a few steps. Our cozy little farmhouse in Ohio used to feel vast when Finn was at school. Now it feels impossibly small, his presence filling every corner. He's my constant shadow, preparing my meals, fluffing my pillows, his strong arms lifting me into the shower when my weary muscles fail. My son, my rock. Because here's the truth they don't tell you about having a child so young. One day, they truly grow up. Finn was always lanky, but at 19, he's built like an oak. Working construction has roughened his hands, given his voice a deep rumble, and his eyes. God, his eyes, a mirror image of his absent father's, the one who vanished the moment that pregnancy test showed positive. Mom? I startle, pulled from my thoughts. Finn stands in the doorway, a comforting bowl of soup in his hands. You skipped lunch again. Wasn't hungry. You never are. He sets the bowl on my bedside table, a furrow in his brow. Your legs were giving you trouble today. I offer no reply. He knows. He always does. Without a word, he settles on the edge of my bed and gently rolls up my leggings. A tremor runs through me. The scars are a roadmap of pain, raised and twisted skin, jagged reminders of the surgeries. Finn's fingers hover. Can I? I nod, my throat tight. His first touch is purely therapeutic, kneading the tight bands of muscle around my knee. But then his thumb finds a stubborn knot near my inner thigh, and I bite back a gasp. You're so tense, he murmurs, his voice a low rumble. You have no idea. His hands move higher, a fraction more intimate. Not enough to be scandalous, but enough to make my pulse quicken. It's just the warmth of his skin, I tell myself. The blessed relief as the pain recedes. But when his fingertips graze the hem of my shorts, my breath catches in my throat. Finn stills too for a heartbeat that stretches into an eternity. Neither of us moves. Then he clears his throat, a husky sound, and gently pulls my pant leg down. Better? No. Yes. Thanks, sweetie. He hesitates, as if words are caught in his throat. Instead, he picks up the soup bowl and leaves. I stare at the ceiling, the echo of his touch replaying in my mind, those few seconds when his touch almost strayed too far. And for the first time in years, I feel a stirring beyond the familiar ache, something undeniably dangerous. The second time his hands found me, I knew deep down it was no longer just about soothing my aching legs. Morning light streamed through the curtains, too bright, too cheerful for the turmoil raging within me. Sleep had eluded me. Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel Finn's hands on me, warm, calloused, lingering. I tried to dismiss it as nothing more than a son's care, a caretaker easing his mother's pain. But the way my skin prickled and burned beneath his touch was something far beyond mere relief. The soft creak of Finn's door down the hall yanked me back to reality. I quickly smoothed the blanket over my lap, as if it could conceal the forbidden thoughts swirling in my mind. Footsteps approached, and then his shadow fell across my doorway. You're up early, he murmured, his voice thick with sleep. He stood shirtless, sweatpants hanging low on his hips, revealing a glimpse of a tattoo that snaked across his ribs, something he'd gotten last year, a silent act of rebellion. I forced my gaze away. Couldn't sleep. Liam again? No, you. I nodded, the lie a bitter taste in my mouth. Finn sighed and walked in, settling beside me as he had the night before. Without a word, he drew back the blanket and placed his hands on my bare calf. I flinched, a sharp, involuntary movement. Sorry, he mumbled. Cold hands. But it wasn't the coolness that made me tense. It was the deliberate way his fingers pressed into my skin, slow and knowing, as if he were tracing the very contours of my being. You're tight everywhere, he murmured, his breath warm against my skin. I swallowed hard. Last night I could almost convince myself it was accidental. But now, in the stark light of day, there was no denying the slow, deliberate circles his thumb traced higher, the subtle slide of his palm up the back of my thigh. Finn, relax. My voice was breathier than usual. You're fighting it. I wasn't fighting the massage. I was battling this undeniable pull, the way my body responded to his touch, the quick catch in my breath when his fingertips grazed the edge of my shorts, the way my stomach clenched when I caught him looking at me, not with a son's innocent gaze, but with the hungry intensity of a man looking at a woman. A sharp knock at the front door shattered the charged moment. Finn recoiled as if burned. Expecting anyone? No. He stood, muscles rippling as he stretched. I'll get it. I exhaled a shaky breath, my skin still tingling where he had touched me. Muffled voices drifted from the living room. Mrs. Henderson, our ever-curious neighbor, asking if we needed anything from the store. Finn's polite refusal, the soft click of the closing door. When he returned, his expression was unreadable, a mask of carefully controlled emotions. Think she suspects? He asked, his voice low. My heart hammered against my ribs. Suspects what? A faint smirk played on his lips. That we never returned her casserole dish from last month. I forced a weak laugh, but my hands trembled because for a terrifying second I thought he meant us. That night, the rain lashed against the windows, a furious drumming that mirrored the storm within me. The power flickered and died, plunging the house into a comforting darkness. Finn lit candles, their dancing flames casting long, dramatic shadows across his face. He sat beside me on the couch, so close I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. You cold? He asked, his voice gentle. No. Liar. He draped a soft blanket over us anyway. Our legs brushed beneath it, a casual contact that neither of us broke. The wind howled outside, a tree branch scraping against the roof like skeletal fingers. Then his hand found mine. Not a chance encounter, not a fleeting touch. His fingers intertwined with mine, rough and sure. I should have pulled away, should have created distance. I didn't. In the soft candlelight, his eyes looked dark and fathomless. A warning, a question, a silent plea. The electricity surged back on with a sudden hum, flooding the room with a harsh, revealing light. We sprang apart as if we'd been shocked. But the invisible current between us, that didn't vanish. One kiss. That's all it took to shatter the fragile boundaries and remake us into something forbidden. The power outage had irrevocably changed everything. For 3 agonizing days after that night on the couch, Finn and I moved around each other like wary strangers. Polite, cautious, yet with a gnawing hunger in our eyes. I caught him stealing glances at my mouth when I spoke. His hands lingered a fraction too long when he helped me stand. Once I turned too quickly and found him inhaling the scent of my hair where it had brushed his shoulder. We were a tightly wound fuse, and then came the inevitable explosion. It happened on a Tuesday. Finn had just come home from work, smelling of honest sweat and the lingering warmth of the summer day. He kicked off his heavy boots, his white t-shirt clinging to his broad chest where he'd worked up a sweat. You okay? he asked, nodding towards my rigid posture on the couch. Just sore. I offered a weak smile. Long day. Without a word, he walked over and gently lifted my legs onto his lap. My breath hitched as his strong fingers kneaded into my calf muscles. You push yourself too hard, he murmured, his voice low. Says the boy who single-handedly rebuilt our porch ramp when the insurance company refused. The man who carried me upstairs every night because my bedroom was on the second floor. His thumb pressed into a particularly stubborn knot near my knee, and I bit back a moan. Shh. His voice was rough, possessive. Just let me take care of you. But this wasn't mere care. This was desire, raw and undeniable. I could see it in the tightening of his jaw when my skirt rode up slightly. Feel it in the subtle tremor of his fingers as they inched higher. When his hand reached my thigh, I instinctively grabbed his wrist. We froze, locked in a silent battle of wills. His pulse hammered against my fingers, a frantic rhythm. Then tell me to stop, he challenged, his eyes burning into mine, a plea veiled in defiance. I should have said it. Should have pushed him away, sought professional help, pretended this dangerous undercurrent didn't exist. But I didn't. I couldn't. So, I released his wrist. His kiss wasn't tender or hesitant. It was a conflagration of fire and teeth, and 19 years of unspoken longing. His hands fisted in my hair as he dragged me closer, our mouths colliding as if it were the only way we knew how to breathe. I gasped into him, my fingers digging into the solid muscle of his shoulders. We can't, I choked out. We already are, he murmured against my lips. He nipped my lower lip, sending a jolt of pure sensation straight between my legs. You feel that? That's us. And God help me, I did feel it. The hard press of his body against my hip, the way my own body arched towards him, an undeniable pull. This was wrong, so terribly wrong. But when his tongue slid against mine, all coherent thought vanished, replaced by a desperate need for more. We didn't make it to the bedroom. Finn pinned me to the couch, his hips grinding against mine as I clawed at his t-shirt. The fabric tore at the collar, but neither of us cared. Look at me, he growled, his voice thick with passion. When I did, what I saw in his eyes shattered the last vestiges of my denial. This wasn't just lust, it was love. A fierce, consuming love that felt like it could break bones, the kind that leaves indelible scars. Afterward, as we lay tangled in the heavy silence, the weight of our transgression crashed down upon us. Finn traced slow, idle circles on my bare shoulder. You okay? He whispered. No. Yes. He knew I was lying, just as I knew he wasn't truly sorry. When he finally spoke again, his voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear it. I've wanted you since I was 15. My stomach plummeted. This wasn't a sudden lapse, it was an inevitability, a slow burn that had finally erupted. Some silences speak volumes. Morning arrived too soon, too sharp. I woke before Finn, the enormity of what we'd done pressing down on me like a physical weight. The sheets still held his scent, a potent mix of sweat, sawdust, and something undeniably male. My son, my lover. God, what have we done? He found me in the kitchen, staring blankly at the coffee maker. Hey, he murmured, his voice still rough with sleep. I couldn't meet his gaze, couldn't bear to see the tenderness in his eyes, a tenderness that should never have been there. Mom? His hand touched my shoulder, warm, familiar, utterly wrong. I flinched away, the hurt that flashed across his face cutting deeper than any blade. We spent the day orbiting each other like distant, troubled planets. He tried to catch my eye, his fingers brushing mine with deliberate casualness every time he passed me something. I recoiled, building invisible walls with every quiet "thank you" and "please pass the salt." By dinner, The tension in the small farmhouse was suffocating. "You're punishing me," he finally said, pushing his plate away, his eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and defiance. "I'm protecting us." My voice broke. "From what?" "From this. From the way people would look at us if they knew. From the shame that will devour us if we let this continue." His jaw tightened. "I'm not ashamed." "You will be," I whispered, the words heavy with a terrible certainty. That night I heard him pacing his room, the floorboards creaking a mournful rhythm beneath his restless steps. Each footfall echoed through the thin walls, a constant reminder of the turmoil within him. Then, silence. The soft click of my door opening. Moonlight spilled across the bed as he stood there shirtless, his chest rising and falling too rapidly. "I can't pretend," he said, his voice raw with emotion. "Not with you." My carefully constructed resolve crumbled, because deep down, neither could I. We didn't speak as he crossed the room. Words were unnecessary. Every touch, every stolen glance, every ragged breath spoke volumes. This was our undoing, and we were diving in head first. 1 year later, the neighbors still whisper about our unusual closeness. "Such a devoted son," Mrs. Henderson remarks at the grocery store, her eyes filled with saccharine sweetness, "always taking such wonderful care of his mother." I offer a polite smile, subtly adjusting the new wedding band on my left hand, the one no one questions because single mothers don't typically remarry, do they? Finn's fingers intertwine with mine as we walk to the car, a silent language only we understand. Nobody looks twice. Nobody knows our truth. And that's precisely how we intend to keep it.